Art Against Mental Illness.
Great, I'm here with George. George, introduce yourself.
I'm George Paterson. I'm a writer, a broadcaster and a former musician, and I'm here in Auchterarder to be part of the Auchterarder Book Festival, the third one, and I'm really happy to be here.
And what are you doing today?
I'm hosting a panel called Fact versus Fiction with Val Penny and Mark Bridgman.
Okay, fact. Well, so I certainly know Mark Bridgman and Val, and so fact versus fiction. So what? Tell me about that. What does that mean?
Basically, it's both are crime writers, but Mark writes factual books about real crimes that have happened, and he writes them in quite an entertaining, exciting way. Val is a fictional writer, crime writer, who has started a series called Hunter Wilson, DEI Hunter Wilson series, which has now had an offshoot into the Jane Rennick series as well. So it's having a wee chat about both disciplines, the fact versus the fiction, and why do they prefer, writing in that type of the genre and the other type of the genre, and just to see what differences and what similarities they may have.
Yeah, amazing. And what do you do as a writer?
I've written 2 books that have been published. The guys I'm interviewing, they've written between them, I think they've written about 30.
Yeah.
So I've only 2 published so far. The first one was called The Gill, the Crow, the Writer and the Fighter, which was a sort of big sweeping adventure book that was picked up by Into Books, small independent label in Glasgow. In 2021, they published it, and it became quite successful. It's sold a fair few, and the publisher picked me up for my second book, which was a supernatural psychosexual thriller set in the West End of Glasgow and on the fictitious island of Westerwick, which I made up. So those 2 books are very, very different, and they're not part of any series or standalone books. So I tend to enjoy writing standalone stories, and despite my publisher and other people pushing me for sequels and prequels and series, I'm quite happy just at the moment to write standalones, unless somebody comes along and gives me a big chunk of change. I'll change my mind on that one.
Yeah, we're all anybody's for the
Absolutely.
right price. and so, well, I can really relate to that. Because I'm a visual artist, I've fallen into the trap in the past of listening to what other people think. Oh, you should do more of this, or do more of that, and it makes me bloody miserable, because I'm like, I don't want to do this.
No point in doing
I want to be doing my own stuff. I want to be doing what resonates with me at that moment. And I mean, there's one thing for me, because I can pump out paintings, like, a couple a day if I want, but a book's quite a big endeavour. And so, is this a lot of time spent on your own?
Yeah. I didn't initially start with the idea of writing a book. I was a musician for a number of years.
What sort of musician?
I was a singer in a band and songwriter, so I'd been doing that, and that was one of the reasons I went to London back in the late 80s, was to try and make it with my band, and we just fell short a few times. So, but I found that writing songs, I still love writing music and songs and lyrics and stuff, but I felt that I needed to expand beyond the confines of a 5-minute piece. I wanted to write something a bit longer form, so that's when I started writing pieces for articles and short stories, and it just got bigger and bigger until during COVID, when we're stuck at home, and my daughter was very young at the time. She was a baby, and I was at home with her all day. So when she slept, I would write, and it just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it sort of eventually blossomed into this sort of proto-novel, and tried to knock it into shape during the COVID period, but I still didn't know really what to do with it. It was really something for my own well-being, just to try and get this nonsense that's in my head, or these people that are talking in my head, get them out and down and on the page. and it just continued from there. And it's a really good outlet for the madness that's going on inside my cranium.
So because I can relate to, obviously, you know, getting out what's in your head. I think creativity is a solitary exercise is highly therapeutic, and especially, I mean, we all suffered during COVID in one degree or another, and I find that amazing that you managed to not only find something to do in that time that stopped you from going nuts,
it was
but also
hard though. It was, you'd remember it yourself. It was a really, I know a lot of people who loved being, you know, having the space and the freedom, and I'm quite a solitary person generally, but I felt as if I just needed, I felt my mind was quite confined at the time. I not being allowed to go out and do things and just walk around on my own beyond, you know, the length of my street, I found quite tough to take. So COVID for me was a really hard time. Thankfully, I had something to focus my attention on and focus my energies on, because beyond that, I think I would have struggled even more than I did.
So how do we jump from a sanity maintaining exercise during COVID to a published book?
Well, I'd been writing, as I said, I was writing longer form pieces for reviews and just little think pieces for this website, and the website was run by a publisher called Stephen Cameron, and he'd published a few books, but not many fictional books. And I was chatting to Stephen on one of our few lockdown walks. We'd go for a wee walk because he lived not far from me, and we'd get chatting just to shoot the breeze. And obviously, as a publisher, everyone comes to you with, oh, by the way, I've got a manuscript, or I know somebody with a manuscript, will you have a look at it? And he's like, I don't want to read any of this, I don't want to read anybody's stuff. And he knew what I was like as a writer, and he respected my work, but I'm really not interested in getting any fiction out there at the moment. I'm just not interested. But he said, I'll have a look at it. I'm a slow reader, and I'll take a while to get back to you on this, and I'm not promising anything, but if there's someone who I know that may be interested in it, I'll put it on to them, but don't expect to hear from me for quite a while. So I wasn't expecting to hear from him, but I heard from him within about 3 hours. He sent me a picture of page 72 or 73, and he said, we need to talk. So he picked up that day. So that day was like, this is special, and I want this. So from that moment on, it was like, oh, right, okay, maybe I'm doing something right after. Maybe it has got legs. So from then on in, it was published maybe, I don't know, about 8 or 9 months later. It was published and put out in the world, and it's just developed legs from there. And it's
amazing. That's such an amazing story.
It's great, but it's very unusual for most writers are like, reject after reject. First publisher I hit, I get a success, and it's like, it's not the norm. So
no, I can
I'm
imagine.
aware of that, and I'm aware of how fortunate I was to have that.
Well, again, as a visual artist, I got lots of paintings. Buy the painting, don't buy the painting, right? But some of them take quite a while, but not novel length. You know what I mean? And it's like you put all this effort into something. It's your baby. All these people in your head are on the page. And
how do you feel about that when someone goes, "Oh, I don't really like that"?
Oh, well, you get it a lot, right? Because the thing is, people are usually quite nice, right? But the one that really does my head in is, oh, I love this piece, and you'll talk to them about it. It's amazing, and they'll tell you about this piece of artwork. And you sort of look at them expecting it, and then they'll be like, yeah, but it doesn't really go with the decor in my dining room, right? And you're just like,
I get
change the decor.
I get that sometimes, even with books as well. It's if you don't fit in a particular genre, there's people who pick up on books or pick up on literature as an accessory rather than, this is a piece of art. This is something that someone, I don't know how long it takes you to make your pieces of art, but I know it takes me, it can take me up to 2 years, it can take me longer than 2 years to make something that's going to cost a tenner. But it's not an accessory. I want to be part. I want you to engage with me and go, we're going to write an unwritten contract here, and we're going to agree a contract that you're going to jump into this book of mine, this wee world of mine, and you're going to inhabit it for, the next week or two. That is worth more than just being an accessory on a bookshelf or on a dining room.
But you'll take the sale anyway.
I'm not in a position where I can turn it down. So.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think, well, for me as a reader, I do a bit of writing, obviously, and I've got a podcast and stuff, but me as a reader of fiction, and I'm dyslexic, I have to do things usually by audio book.
Right.
For me, it's, it's almost like dating.
Yeah.
I have to find authors that will resonate with me, that I can spend that much time with.
I think that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And not everybody, not you. It's like not everybody likes fish, not everybody likes chicken.
Yeah.
You're going to have to find the things that work for you. But when you do love it with all your heart. Same with art. There's artists I love, but and there's artists I like, and there's artists I'm not really that fussed about. But if there's somebody I love them, intensely. It's
exactly. Yeah, totally. And so it's one thing writing for yourself over COVID, whatever. There's no real pressure there, right? To jumping from novel number 1 to novel number 2, where you're now a published author with expectations, or even to do things like sequels or whatever. Yeah. What changes in that transition?
To the outside world, quite a lot, but to me, nothing. Genuinely, I have not deviated from the path that I set on when I first started writing. That's probably the thing that's keeping me in love with doing it. Other people's reaction to my work has changed, but my own reaction to my own work has not. I continue to do what I did back then. I find the time and I guard the time to write, I absolutely guard it with all of my life, and I write and I write and I write, and I try not to get distracted by events, or if somebody nominates you for something or puts your name forward for this, or you get a nice review or a bad review, I try to, when I get a nice review or a nomination, I'm like, for a day, I'm like, yeah, but it distracts me too much. So I tend just to go, right, the thing that I like most about this is the actual art of doing it, of sitting down and write. I get more out of that than I do out of, I loved your book. And don't get me wrong, I love that, I really enjoy that, but for me to keep my passion, I have to keep my discipline. Yeah. I have to keep focused on the thing that got me into this in the first place. So whatever happens out there won't affect what's in here.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, right? I love it. And it's so appropriate for the sort of the core thesis of this whole podcast set out in episode number 2, which is the process is what's important. Totally. Right, and so I do advocate making art, doing writing poetry, and never showing it to anyone. Right, you should not feel pressure to. I think you should. I think there's so much to be gained from that. But the point is, doing the thing, and you're never going to produce something that you're going to care about if you've got someone else's voice in your head.
But you're doing it for them. Then you're doing it. It will never be. I don't know who you make your art for, but I make my art for me. Yeah, me. So I'm number one. Yeah. So if I'm happy with it, then I'll allow myself to share it with other people. If I'm not happy with it, then I'll not share it at the moment. But it's like, consider yourself a footballer, right? You do all your training. You don't have to share all your training methods and your training techniques and the hours and hours you spend on the training ground. It's the 90 minutes you're playing football in. That's what they'll get to see. And they'll get to see your piece of art or my book. That's what they'll get to see. They don't need to see the rest of it. That's part of my process. If you want it, if you're interested in it, we'll talk about it, sure. But it's not as important to you as it is to me.
No, I can't agree more. It's the finished product is the tip of the iceberg. And the iceberg is huge. And the iceberg is your whole life. It's your experience as a musician, it's as a broadcaster. It's
I'm bringing everything to the table, but you're only seeing that little sliver
But
of it.
hopefully lots of little tips of lots of little icebergs. And it all just adds up to make sort of one big thing, is your career, which is just a continuation of your life. And I also love this idea that a piece of art, whatever it is a conversation through time and space. And so that you as an author are communicating with someone in, I don't know, in America who's picked up your book, who in 10 years' time, right? And the conversation is fresh to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's fresh with you now to them then in the future. And I find that just such an amazing concept.
Well, I read a book when I was on holiday a couple of weeks ago by an author who's long dead. And I've been wanting to read this book for a while, and it resonated so much with me. And it kept me awake at night. It was that important to me. Things were resonating from every line. It was just cracking my head open. And I desperately wanted to reach out to the author, but the author's dead, has been dead for a number of years. But it reminded me, as what you've just said there, this art goes on forever.
Yeah.
It never ends. It will find its people, it will find its tribe somewhere.
Yeah.
All you've got to do is you've got to be honest with yourself, and you've got to stick with what you believe in, because you will find the people that were meant to find you.
Yeah.
It was.
I mean, I love it, and I can hear the passion. I can feel it coming off you.
Oh, totally.
And it's such a beautiful thing, and I feel privileged to be able to sort of experience that, because what most people have got is the book, right, or one of your books, and I think that hopefully this passion comes through in your writing. I feel like I really wish I'd read some before now. But
well, the
like
first
we met,
upstairs.
the first time we met and I'd ever heard of you was about 15 minutes ago. Well, this is how you find new readers, isn't it?
Exactly.
And I just love that. And I think the other thing for me is that how do you know when you finished a work? Well, so what you've just said, you know when you finished it, apart from polishing and stuff, you know when the thing is done, when you like it, right? Yeah. When you like it. You can't possibly know.
But there is, you probably recognise this as an artist yourself, that there comes a point where you have to step back from it and go, I can continue working on this. I can continue adding another line here, another piece there, but I have to step away from it now. Yeah. Now's the time. It's like having kids. You have to know when to go, that's them, let them go and do this themselves. Yeah. And that's the moment.
Yeah, and when you release it out into the world, it's not yours anymore.
It's not. Then you have to, then you're open to all the criticism or the love or whatever comes your way, but it
becomes part of someone else's story, and then they fold their story into it, right?
They'll find their love from it, or their hate of it, or anything.
Or their own interpretation.
Exactly. I'm all about that. You tell me what you think my book's about. You read my book. Yeah. You tell me how did it make you feel. That's more important to me than you sitting going, tell me what your book's about. So I know what it's about to me, but I need you to find out what the book's about for you. Yeah. And then I've made a connection.
I love it when people interpret my work. I used to get a bit weird about it, because I know I didn't. That's not what it means. But
to them it is.
Yeah, and then they tell you all about it, and I'm like, if in my mind you've just created a new artwork, right? That I didn't think about any of that when I was making this. You've projected that onto it, and now you've created a new piece of art. Right, that's new. That's now new. That's different. That's a different interpretation that I hadn't seen. I find that the most beautiful thing in the world. It's like collaboration.
Totally.
Yeah.
You totally get it.
Yes, good. Right, you've got to go and do some stuff. You've got to go and do a workshop or whatever that is. So I'm going to let you go, but just before you go, where can people find you and what you got coming up?
My name is George Paterson. 2 books, Westerwick and The Girl, the Crow, the Writer and the Fighter. You can find them in all reputable bookshops, independent bookshops. You can get them from intocreative.co.uk/shop. That's the publisher. I get more money for that. Plug. And I'm working on my 3rd book at the moment, which should be finished by the end of the year. And then I'll go into edits and we'll see how it goes for there, but it's very different from the previous 2. But works for me.
Okay, good. Well, good. No, I couldn't agree more. I love it. Thank you for your time, and
Thank you.
enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, man.
Art Against Mental Illness.